The story opens with the young widow traveling alone along a dusty, sun-baked trail, her horse plodding steadily under the weight of a small, worn saddlebag. Her name is Clara, though few in this town will know her yet. The loss of her husband has left her not only heartbroken but financially strained, forcing her to leave the small village she once called home. Every mile she covers carries both the physical strain of travel and the emotional weight of grief. Clara is not used to traveling alone, and yet necessity has made her brave. She has a quiet strength that shines through in her determination to survive, to carve a new life for herself despite the hardships she has endured. As she approaches the outskirts of the small western town, Clara observes the wooden buildings lining the main street, their weathered facades speaking of hard work, persistence, and a community that has seen more than its share of struggle. The smell of baked bread, horses, and wood smoke fills the air. Clara feels a mixture of relief and apprehension. Relief because she has reached civilization after days on the road. Apprehension because she knows she must make her presence known and find a way to support herself. She has heard rumors of a wealthy rancher on the edge of town, a man who employs household help, and she resolves to approach him for work. Cooking has been her skill since childhood, taught to her by her mother and honed in her own home before tragedy struck. She believes it may be her only chance at stability. The first interaction with the rancher is tense yet revealing. She approaches his property cautiously, aware that he is a man of considerable wealth and status, accustomed to a world in which outsiders are often viewed with suspicion. Clara introduces herself politely, her voice steady despite the flutter of nerves in her chest. She explains her situation: recent widowhood, lack of resources, and a willingness to work diligently in exchange for the opportunity to earn her keep. Her honesty and humility are striking, and although the rancher is known for his stern demeanor, there is a subtle curiosity in his gaze. He is not accustomed to strangers who approach with such quiet dignity, and it prompts him to consider her request seriously. Clara's first impression of the rancher is that he is a man of few words, his face weathered and lined from years under the harsh sun, but with eyes that reveal intelligence and a quiet authority. She notices the efficient way the ranch operates, the subtle organization behind the apparent chaos of livestock, tools, and workers moving about the property. It is intimidating at first, yet Clara is determined to show that she can adapt to this environment. She assures the rancher that she can handle the demands of cooking for his household, from preparing large meals to keeping the kitchen in order, all without complaint. Her willingness to work hard and her respectful demeanor begin to break down the invisible wall between them. As Clara leaves after their initial meeting, she carries a mix of hope and anxiety. She wonders whether the rancher will give her a chance and whether she will be able to meet the expectations of a household that is surely disciplined and demanding. Yet, she also feels a spark of possibility, a chance to rebuild her life, to find purpose, and perhaps even to form new connections that will help her heal. Little does she know that this first step will soon lead her to the rancher's daughter, a child whose shy and lonely nature will stir a deep, protective affection within Clara. This simple act of courage, asking for work, putting herself forward despite uncertainty, sets the stage for the story's unfolding, where the widow's strength, kindness, and resilience will become the heart of a new, unexpected family. After Clara's initial meeting with the rancher, she is invited, or rather, allowed to step onto the sprawling grounds of his property. From the road, the ranch had seemed impressive, but now, up close, it is even more imposing. A large wooden house sits at the heart of the ranch, its weathered boards and wide veranda reflecting years of hard work and resilience. Smoke curls lazily from the kitchen chimney, and the distant clatter of livestock and the low murmur of ranch hands set a rhythm that is foreign but strangely comforting to Clara. She notices the meticulous organization of the property, horses stabled neatly, wagons parked in order, and fences lined straight and secure. It is clear that this rancher is a man who values discipline and precision, not just wealth. As she steps into the house for the first time, Clara feels a mix of nervous anticipation and quiet awe. The interior is large but functional, designed for comfort yet clearly meant to withstand the wear and tear of ranch life. The furniture is sturdy, practical, and polished to a soft gleam. A heavy, warm smell of cooked food, wood polish, and the faint hint of horses from the outside fills her senses. She begins to realize that working here will be a challenge. The kitchen alone is vast, with shelves stocked with ingredients, large pots and pans hanging from hooks, and multiple workspaces. It will require skill, stamina, and an ability to adapt quickly. Clara, however, feels a spark of determination. This is not just a job. It is an opportunity to regain a sense of purpose. It is in this household that Clara first notices the rancher's daughter, a small girl of perhaps 8 or 9, with wide, curious eyes and a quiet demeanor. She watches Clara from the corner of the room, partially hidden behind a doorway. There is an air of caution about the child, as if she is unsure whether Clara is to be trusted. Clara senses immediately that the girl is lonely. The child rarely speaks, and when she does, it is in soft whispers, almost afraid of being heard. Clara's heart softens, and a protective instinct takes root. She realizes that her role in this household might go beyond cooking, that she may also be needed as a comforting presence for the Pilos, child who lives in a house filled with the structured, impersonal order of ranch life. During these first moments, Clara carefully observes the routines of the household. She notes the precise way meals are served, how the rancher moves through his home with purpose, and the little ways in which the daughter's world is carefully managed yet emotionally sparse. She begins to see her potential place in this environment, not just as a cook, but as someone who can bring warmth, patience, and attention to a house that seems in many ways lonely despite its size. Clara also becomes aware that the rancher is a man of contradictions, stern yet fair, distant yet observant, capable of great authority, but perhaps in need of the gentle human connection that Clara naturally offers. By the end of her first day exploring the household, Clara feels a mixture of fatigue and anticipation. She knows that adapting to this new life will require resilience, skill, and emotional intelligence. Yet, she also feels a flicker of hope that she can not only survive here, but carve out a space where her presence is valued. The quiet observation of the daughter, combined with the respect the rancher shows toward her work, begins to shape Clara's understanding of the household. She senses that small acts of kindness and attentiveness may have a powerful impact, and she quietly resolves to approach this new chapter of her life with patience, empathy, and diligence. Clara's first day of work at the rancher's household begins before dawn, the sky still tinged with soft shades of pink and orange as the world slowly wakes. She rises early, her body still stiff from the journey into town, but her mind focused on the task ahead. Cooking for a large household is far different from preparing meals for herself or even for a small family, and Clara knows that her skills, patience, and endurance will all be tested. The kitchen itself is enormous, filled with rows of wooden counters, shelves stacked high with jars and spices, and a large hearth dominating one wall. The tools of the trade pots, pans, knives, and utensils are all within easy reach, but they also carry an expectation of proficiency. She feels a flutter of nerves but reminds herself that this is her opportunity to prove her worth. The rancher, a tall and imposing figure, gives Clara minimal instructions but clear expectations. Meals must be prepared on schedule, ingredients used efficiently, and the kitchen kept in impeccable order. He moves through the kitchen like a general inspecting his troops, his eyes sharp and assessing. Clara quickly senses that mistakes will not be tolerated, yet she also detects that there is fairness in his strictness. He values competence and honesty above all else. She begins by preparing breakfast, eggs, fresh bread and coffee for the rancher, and a simple meal for the staff. The morning is a flurry of activity, lighting the stove, checking supplies, and managing timing so that everything is ready simultaneously. Clara works steadily, her hands moving with practiced precision, though her heart pounds with both anxiety and determination. Meanwhile, the rancher's daughter observes from the edge of the kitchen, her curiosity slowly overcoming shyness. She watches Clara's every movement, intrigued by the widow's calm efficiency and gentle manner. There is a quiet fascination in the girl's eyes, as if she has not seen someone so capable, yet so unassuming before. Clara notices the observation and offers a small, reassuring smile, which the child tentatively returns. Though the girl does not speak, the connection is immediate and unspoken, a bridge forming between the lonely child and the young widow. Clara's instinct is to nurture, to offer warmth and safety in a household that feels large and formal, and she senses that this bond may be as important as the cooking itself. By midday, Clara is preparing the main meal. She moves through the kitchen with growing confidence, her nerves settling as she realizes she is capable of managing the work. She seasons the food carefully, ensures each dish is cooked perfectly, and even improvises when she notices missing ingredients, demonstrating resourcefulness and creativity. The rancher tastes her cooking and nods subtly, a rare expression of approval passing across his stern features. It is a small gesture, but it fills Clara with a sense of accomplishment, validation that her skills are valued and that she can rise to the expectations of this demanding household. As the day progresses, Clara encounters small challenges: a stubborn dough that refuses to rise, a spill of milk that must be cleaned before it soaks into the wooden floor, and the constant balancing act of timing multiple dishes. She meets each challenge with determination, learning quickly that patience, focus, and careful observation are as important as culinary skill. Meanwhile, the child drifts closer, eventually helping by fetching small items or simply observing with fascination. Clara quietly encourages her, offering small words of guidance and smiles, planting the seeds of trust and familiarity. By the time evening arrives, Clara is exhausted but satisfied. The kitchen is spotless, the meals are prepared and enjoyed, and she has made a quiet but meaningful connection with the daughter. The rancher, though his expression remains reserved, acknowledges her efforts with a curt nod. Clara realizes that this first day was not just about cooking, it was about understanding the rhythm of the household, establishing herself as capable and trustworthy, and beginning the subtle work of forming bonds with the people who inhabit this ranch. She leaves the kitchen that evening with a sense of cautious optimism, knowing that while challenges lie ahead, she has taken the first steps toward securing not only employment, but a place in this new and unfamiliar world. As the days pass, Clara gradually settles into her role within the rancher's household, moving beyond the initial anxiety of her first day to a rhythm of steady work and quiet observation. She has learned the kitchen's routines, the timing of meals, and the preferences of the rancher and his staff. And now her attention shifts to another, more delicate task: earning the trust of the rancher's young daughter. The child remains cautious, her eyes wide with both curiosity and reservation. Yet Clara senses an unspoken longing for companionship, comfort, and someone who will understand her without judgment. Clara begins to engage the child subtly. While cooking, she asks the girl small, gentle questions. "Do you like stories?" Or, "Would you like to help me with this bread?" At first, the child responds with little more than nods or quiet murmurs, but Clara does not rush her. She understands that trust cannot be forced and that patience is as essential as the food she prepares. Over time, small moments of connection emerge. The child lingers near the kitchen, quietly observing Clara kneading dough or stirring pots, and Clara acknowledges her presence with soft smiles, friendly gestures, and gentle words. These tiny interactions begin to break down the child's walls, allowing the first hints of friendship and comfort to take root. The rancher, meanwhile, continues to watch Clara with a mix of scrutiny and curiosity. He notices the small changes in his daughter. She is smiling more, her posture relaxed, and she seems calmer than she has in years. He begins to realize that Clara's presence is having a subtle yet profound impact. The rancher himself is a man who values hard work, integrity, and reliability, and Clara continues to demonstrate all three. But beyond her skill in the kitchen, it is her compassion and attentiveness that begin to shift his perception. He sees that she is not only capable of performing tasks efficiently, but also of fostering warmth and stability within a household that has often been marked by structure and routine rather than affection. One morning, Clara and the child sit together by the window while a pot of stew simmers on the stove. The child timidly asks a question about the ingredients, and Clara responds patiently, explaining each one with care. She even allows the girl to stir the pot under her guidance. The child's small hands tremble with excitement and concentration, and a smile spreads across her face, a moment of trust and joy that speaks louder than words. Clara feels a sense of fulfillment she had not experienced since before her husband's death, realizing that her role here is becoming far more meaningful than simply preparing meals. In the evenings, Clara continues to engage the child with quiet activities, reading stories aloud, helping her with small household chores, or simply listening to her thoughts and fears. The child begins to open up about her life on the ranch, sharing small details about her days, her favorite games, and even the little worries she keeps to herself. Clara responds with warmth and understanding, never judgment or impatience, creating a safe emotional space that encourages honesty and closeness. Slowly, the child begins to seek Clara's company, no longer merely observing but participating, asking questions, and sharing laughter. By the end of this period, Clara has begun to earn not just the child's trust but a subtle approval from the rancher. Though he rarely expresses emotions openly, he notices the difference in his daughter's demeanor. The way she talks about her days. One chilly evening, as the sun dipped behind the distant hills, casting long shadows across the ranch, Clara was finishing her kitchen duties. The day had been long preparing meals, tidying the large kitchen, and managing small household tasks, but her spirits were quietly uplifted by the gentle interactions she had shared with the rancher's daughter throughout the day. The child had lingered near her side, offering shy smiles and small bits of conversation, gradually opening up in ways that warmed Clara's heart. It was during these ordinary domestic routines that an extraordinary moment unfolded, one that would change the nature of Clara's role in the household forever. The little girl Emma had been unusually quiet that evening. She sat cross-legged on the floor by the hearth, her small hands folded neatly in her lap, watching Clara wipe down the counters. Normally, she would chatter about her day or ask questions about the food Clara was preparing, but tonight she seemed lost in thought. Clara, noticing the child's pensive expression, approached her and knelt down to offer gentle reassurance. "Is everything all right, Emma?" she asked softly, brushing a stray lock of hair behind the girl's ear. The child looked up, her eyes glistening with an emotion Clara could not immediately place: vulnerability, longing, perhaps a hint of fear. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, Emma asked the question that took Clara by surprise. "Can you tuck me in tonight?" Clara froze for a moment, caught off guard. She had never imagined that her role in this household would extend beyond cooking and maintaining the kitchen. To be asked for such an intimate act of care, a simple gesture that carried so much trust, was both humbling and moving. The request, innocent in its phrasing, revealed the depth of the child's need for comfort and security, a need that Clara instinctively felt called to fulfill. After a brief pause, Clara nodded gently, offering a warm smile. "Of course, Emma. I'll tuck you in tonight," she said. There was a gravity to the moment that transcended the simplicity of the words. In that small request, the child was entrusting Clara with something far more significant than a bedtime routine. She was entrusting her with emotional safety, with the fragile security of a child who had likely spent too many nights feeling lonely and uncertain. Clara felt a wave of responsibility and tenderness wash over her. She realized that her presence in this household was becoming something more profound than employment. It was evolving into a relationship built on trust, care, and mutual need. Later that evening, Clara prepared the child for bed, guiding her through a simple routine of changing into pajamas, brushing teeth, and washing up. Every step was met with quiet cooperation, but also with a growing sense of relief from the child. Clara sensed that Emma had been craving this attention, this nurturing presence, for some time. When they finally sat together on the child's small bed, Clara read a short story aloud, her voice soft and steady. Emma listened intently, her eyes gradually closing as the comfort of Clara's presence lulled her toward sleep. Finally, Clara gently tucked the blanket around her, smoothing the folds with care, and whispered a few reassuring words. As she left the room, Clara felt an emotional shift within herself. The simple act of tucking in a child had deepened the bond between them in ways that words could not capture. She realized that her role in the household would no longer be confined to the kitchen. She was becoming a protector, a confidant, and a source of comfort, a presence that Emma could rely upon. This unexpected request marked a turning point in the story, setting the stage for a relationship that would intertwine the lives of Clara, Emma, and eventually the rancher himself. In that quiet, ordinary moment, a foundation was laid, one built on trust, care, and emotional connection. Clara understood, perhaps for the first time since her own loss, that her heart had a place to belong, and that by responding to this simple request she was stepping into a role that could transform not only her life, but the life of a lonely child yearning for warmth and love. In the days following Emma's heartfelt request to be tucked in, Clara's presence in the household began to take on a new, more intimate dimension. No longer was she simply the cook who prepared meals and maintained the kitchen. She had become a source of comfort, a quiet companion for a child who had spent far too long navigating life with limited warmth and attention. Each day, Clara found herself seeking small ways to nurture Emma, from teaching her how to fold napkins for the table to reading short stories aloud after dinner. These moments, though simple, were filled with significance. They built trust, created familiarity, and fostered a sense of safety for the young girl. Emma, in turn, responded with a growing openness that Clara had not yet witnessed. She began to ask questions about Clara's life, about the small things she noticed in the kitchen, and even about the world beyond the ranch. Her shy smiles became more frequent, and she no longer hesitated to share little snippets of her day. Clara's gentle patience allowed Emma to reveal herself at her own pace, and this slow, mutual unfolding of trust transformed their relationship. The child now sought Clara's presence actively, asking for her help with small tasks or simply requesting that she stay nearby while she played. The once lonely girl began to feel seen, understood, and cared for, emotions that had been scarce in her structured, often solitary life. Clara's influence extended beyond the child to the atmosphere of the household itself. The rancher, a man known for his reserved demeanor, could not help but notice the subtle yet unmistakable change in his daughter. She was calmer, more confident, and even seemed happier when she spoke of her day. Her laughter, previously rare and hesitant, now rang out during the quiet hours of the evening, often sparked by Clara's gentle humor or shared stories. The rancher, though stoic, began to sense that Clara's role went far beyond cooking. He observed how Emma's behavior shifted in Clara's presence, recognizing that the widow's care and attention were filling a gap that he himself could not. During this period, Clara also began to understand the child's unique personality and needs. Emma was not simply lonely. She had a sharp curiosity and an emotional depth that required patience and empathy. Clara adapted to these needs by listening carefully, validating the child's feelings, and responding with reassurance rather than discipline. When Emma expressed fears of storms, of the dark, or of being alone, Clara offered comfort, speaking softly and holding her hand or brushing her hair back. These actions, though ordinary in execution, carried extraordinary emotional weight for the child, gradually forming a bond built on security, trust, and mutual affection. The routines they developed became anchors for both of them. Morning chores, shared meals, and evening stories were no longer mere tasks. They were rituals that cemented the bond between Clara and Emma. Clara's presence offered consistency, something the child could rely on, which in turn allowed Emma to relax, explore her feelings, and build confidence. The house, once structured and efficient but emotionally distant, began to feel warmer, more like a home, largely due to the quiet influence of Clara's care. Even the rancher could not deny the emotional shift. Though he rarely spoke of feelings openly, he began to trust Clara in subtle ways, seeking her opinion on matters concerning the household. As Clara settled more firmly into her role within the rancher's household, life on the ranch, as always, remained unpredictable. While she had successfully built a bond with Emma and earned the quiet trust of the rancher, new challenges soon arose, challenges that would test not only her skills and patience, but also the strength of her character. These trials came from both external pressures and internal doubts, forcing Clara to confront fears she had long tried to suppress. The first test came in the form of gossip from the town. Rumors about Clara's past began to circulate, whispered in the local saloon and spread by curious neighbors. Some suggested that a young widow arriving alone might have ulterior motives, that she might be seeking something more than just employment, or that her intentions toward the rancher or his daughter were suspect. Clara, aware of the rumors, felt the familiar sting of judgment and unfairness, yet she faced the situation with quiet dignity. Rather than confront the gossipers in anger, she focused on her work, maintaining her integrity and letting her actions speak louder than the whispers. Her calm composure and consistency slowly began to quiet the murmurs in town, showing that character is proven through deeds rather than words. Meanwhile, life on the ranch itself presented practical challenges that tested Clara's resilience. A sudden shortage of essential supplies disrupted the usual routine, requiring her to improvise with what was available. She had to stretch ingredients for meals, find creative substitutions, and manage time carefully to ensure that Emma was fed and cared for while the household remained in order. Clara's resourcefulness was evident. She turned potential disaster into opportunity, demonstrating problem-solving skills and adaptability under pressure. These situations revealed her ability not just to follow instructions, but to think critically, showing the rancher that she was capable of managing the household with intelligence and foresight. At the same time, Clara faced personal tests that challenged her emotionally. Memories of her late husband resurfaced, sometimes unexpectedly, in quiet moments or in reminders of domestic routines that once belonged to her former life. The pain of loss threatened to overwhelm her, yet she found solace in her new responsibilities, particularly in caring for Emma. By channeling her emotions into nurturing the child and maintaining the household, Clara discovered a strength within herself that she had thought lost. Her grief became a quiet companion rather than a burden, shaping her into a woman of both resilience and empathy. A more subtle test emerged in the dynamics between Clara and the rancher. The rancher, observant and protective, occasionally questioned Clara's methods, not out of mistrust but out of concern for his daughter and the household's smooth operation. Clara responded with patience, demonstrating respect for his authority while standing firm in her own judgment when necessary. She learned the delicate balance of asserting herself with tact, earning respect without confrontation. This nuanced negotiation of boundaries further solidified her credibility and reliability in the eyes of both father and daughter. Through these trials, gossip, practical challenges, personal grief, and relational tension, Clara's character shone. She remained steadfast in her integrity, diligent in her work, and tender in her interactions with Emma. Her actions spoke louder than any rumor or criticism, proving that she was trustworthy, compassionate, and capable of handling both responsibility and emotional complexity. The tests were not merely obstacles. They were opportunities for Clara to demonstrate her worth, resilience, and moral strength, qualities that would soon become indispensable to the household. By the end of this period, Clara had not only met the expectations of the rancher and earned the affection of his daughter, but had also proven to herself that she possessed the inner fortitude required to face adversity with grace. These challenges laid the groundwork for deeper bonds and greater trust, establishing Clara as a figure of reliability, compassion, and integrity, a woman who could navigate hardship while nurturing those around her, and whose presence was beginning to transform the household into a true home. As Clara's life on the ranch grew more settled, it became clear that stability was never guaranteed in a world defined by wide-open landscapes, harsh weather, and unpredictable human nature. The quiet rhythm of household routines and growing bonds with Emma and the rancher was soon tested by a series of conflicts and challenges, both external and internal, that demanded courage, ingenuity, and emotional strength. The first conflict arose in the form of a business rival to the rancher. A neighboring landowner, envious of the rancher's success and prosperity, sought to undermine him by poaching cattle, spreading rumors, and creating logistical difficulties. Clara, though not directly involved in the ranching operations, quickly realized that her skills could play a role in stabilizing the household during these stressful times. She organized meals efficiently, ensured that the workers were nourished and energized, and even suggested practical solutions for managing the household under pressure. Her calm presence and ability to maintain order amid the chaos helped the rancher focus on defending his land and business, showcasing her value beyond mere domestic labor. Nature itself presented another challenge. A sudden storm swept across the ranch, bringing heavy rain, howling winds, and the threat of flooding. The storm endangered both livestock and property, forcing the household into a state of urgency. Clara worked tirelessly, helping secure the home, checking on the animals, and comforting Emma, who was terrified of the thunder and pounding rain. She wrapped the child in blankets, held her close, and spoke soothingly until the girl calmed down. Clara's courage in the face of danger and her unwavering attention to the child's needs impressed the rancher deeply. He saw not only a competent housekeeper, but a steadfast protector, someone who could be relied upon when circumstances became perilous. At the same time, Clara confronted internal challenges that tested her emotional resilience. The memories of her late husband occasionally resurfaced in unexpected moments, sometimes triggered by quiet evenings, the sight of an old kitchen tool, or the solitude of reflection. The pain of loss was never far from her mind, yet Clara chose to channel her emotions into positive action. Her grief, rather than hindering her, fueled empathy, patience, and determination. She became a pillar of strength for Emma, a stabilizing force for the household, and a woman whose quiet bravery gradually reshaped the dynamics around her. The growing bond between Clara and Emma also faced subtle challenges. Emma, while deeply attached to Clara, sometimes tested boundaries, expressing frustration or fear in ways that required patience and understanding. Clara handled these moments with gentle guidance, ensuring that the child felt heard and supported while maintaining the structure necessary for her well-being. These small but meaningful interactions strengthened their connection, demonstrating Clara's ability to navigate both practical and emotional complexities with grace. Even the rancher faced conflicts that indirectly tested Clara. He had to reconcile his growing admiration and trust in her with his protective instincts toward his daughter. After months of working in the rancher's household, Clara's presence had become both indispensable and quietly transformative. The steady rhythm of daily chores, the growing intimacy with Emma, and the subtle changes she inspired in the rancher had created an atmosphere that was warmer, more cohesive, and emotionally nurturing. It was during this period of routine and closeness that the deeper feelings and unspoken affections among the three began to surface, bringing both clarity and gentle tension to their lives. Emma's affection for Clara had become evident and undeniable. She no longer hesitated to seek her out for comfort, guidance, or companionship. The child's laughter, once infrequent, now filled the house, especially in the kitchen or during quiet evenings by the hearth. Clara's patience, kindness, and attentiveness had built a bond of trust so profound that Emma often seemed surprised at the thought of a life without her. Simple routines like bedtime stories, helping with chores, or sharing a laugh over a small mishap had become opportunities for the child to express her love in small, tender ways. When Emma asked Clara to tuck her in, to read her a favorite story, or to simply sit with her while she fell asleep, it was a reflection not just of comfort but of deep attachment. Meanwhile, the rancher began to notice the subtle but significant changes in both his daughter and himself. He had observed Emma's newfound confidence and calm, and he understood that Clara was the catalyst behind it. Her gentle care and steadfast reliability had created a sense of security in the household that had been lacking. Over time, he found himself seeking Clara's company beyond practical matters. He began to notice the way she moved through the home, the warmth in her interactions, and the quiet strength she displayed in both ordinary and challenging circumstances. Her laughter, kindness, and empathy struck a chord within him, awakening feelings that had long been dormant under layers of responsibility, pride, and solitude. Clara, for her part, had grown to admire and respect the rancher not only for his strength and work ethic, but for his integrity, thoughtfulness, and subtle vulnerability. She recognized the care he took in protecting his daughter and managing his household, even under pressure. Gradually, Clara began to feel a warmth toward him that went beyond professional or platonic respect, a gentle affection that quietly filled the spaces between daily routines, shared glances, and moments of mutual understanding. She found herself thinking of him with a mix of admiration, fondness, and a tentative hope for something deeper, even as she remained cautious, aware of the delicate dynamics at play. The moments that led to realization were often quiet and understated, a shared laugh while preparing a meal, a conversation about Emma's schooling, or a rare moment when the rancher allowed himself a small expression of gratitude. These interactions slowly dismantled the walls of reserve and caution that had defined their relationship. Both Clara and the rancher became aware, in subtle and tender ways, of the potential for something beyond duty and necessity. The feelings were unspoken at first, acknowledged in fleeting glances, pauses in conversation, and the soft natural rhythm of shared life. This period also highlighted the symbiotic nature of their relationships. Clara's care and devotion nurtured Emma's happiness and indirectly softened the rancher's heart, while his recognition of Clara's value deepened her sense of belonging and purpose. Together, they formed a delicate emotional triangle that balanced care, trust, and affection, a foundation that hinted at the possibility of love and family. By the end of this stage, it was clear that the bonds within the household had evolved from necessity and duty into genuine affection, mutual respect, and unspoken love. The quiet realization of these feelings set the stage for the story's resolution, where emotions would no longer be restrained by circumstance or hesitation, and the trio could embrace a future built on trust, care, and heartfelt connection. The household on the ranch had transformed in subtle yet profound ways. Clara, once a timid widow arriving with nothing but her courage and skills, had become the heartbeat of the home. Emma, the shy, quiet child who had observed Clara cautiously from the corner of the kitchen, was now confident, playful, and trusting, her laughter ringing through the rooms as evidence of the bonds that had formed. And the rancher, the stoic and reserved man who had once measured life and work, efficiency, and practical concerns, had come to realize the profound impact of Clara's presence not only on his daughter but on himself. The story's resolution unfolds with a series of small, meaningful moments that culminate in the formation of a new, unconventional family. The day begins like any other, but the air is lighter, filled with warmth and mutual respect. Clara moves through the kitchen preparing breakfast, her movements calm and assured. Emma bounces in, asking for help with a small project, perhaps a drawing or an experiment in the garden. Clara kneels beside her, offering guidance and encouragement. The rancher watches from the doorway, his arms crossed but a soft expression on his face. He notices the way Clara interacts with Emma, gentle, patient, and full of care. For him, it is a quiet revelation, a reminder that life is not solely about work or duty. It is also about connection, love, and shared moments that bring joy and meaning. After breakfast, the family spends time together tending to the animals, checking on the fences, and managing the practicalities of ranch life. But even amid chores, there is laughter, conversation, and a sense of companionship that had been absent before Clara's arrival. The rancher begins to speak more openly with Clara, discussing not only household matters, but also thoughts, feelings, and hopes for the future. His trust in her is complete, a reflection of the character and integrity she has demonstrated over months of unwavering dedication. Clara, in turn, recognizes the depth of his care, both for Emma and for her, and feels a quiet, steady affection growing in her heart. The evening brings the most intimate and symbolic moment of the story: bedtime with Emma. The child climbs into her small bed, and Clara, following the routine they have developed, tucks her in, smoothing the blankets and reading her a story. Emma's small hand finds Clara's, and she murmurs a simple, heartfelt request. "I love you, Clara." The words, innocent yet profound, encapsulate the emotional journey that has led them here, a journey of trust, care, and shared vulnerability. The rancher, standing in the doorway, feels a swell of gratitude and admiration. He realizes that this young widow, who arrived as a stranger, has become a vital part of their lives in ways that cannot be measured by work or obligation alone. That night, as the household settles, the rancher and Clara share a quiet moment of understanding. Words are few but meaningful. There is no rush, no dramatic confession, just a gentle acknowledgement that life has changed. They recognize that they have become a family, united not merely by circumstance but by choice, affection, and the mutual care they have cultivated. The house, once structured and impersonal, now feels like home, warm, safe, and full of life. The story concludes with a sense of balance and fulfillment. Clara has found belonging, Emma has found security and love, and the rancher has found a partner who strengthens the family both emotionally and practically. The simple act that started it all, Emma's request, "Can you tuck me in too?" has become symbolic of the love and trust that now defines their lives. Through patience, integrity, and quiet courage, Clara has not only rebuilt her own life but has also created a new family, one bound by care, respect, and heartfelt connection. In the end, the story celebrates the formation of an unexpected family, a widow, a lonely child, and a stoic rancher